Exposed, the incredible truth about NASA's moon reactor that will change everything forever. Charlie Rivera wiped the sweat from his brow as the fluorescent lights flickered in his cramped garage. He'd been knee-deep in grease and metal for hours, fixing a rusted sedan that belonged to Mrs. Henderson down the street. He could hear the low hum of the radio in the background, a comforting presence in the midst of the mechanical chaos. Times were tough in Millfield, Ohio, since the factory closed its doors. Families like his were struggling just to get by, but Charlie's resolve had always matched the grit of his hands. As he creaked the door open to the compartment he was working on, something glinted back at him in the deep shadows. Curiosity piqued, he reached in, his fingers brushing against a peculiar device that looked out of place among the usual nuts and bolts. He blinked, pulling it out into the dim light. It was small but intricately designed, wires snaking in and out with an alien grace. His heart raced. It couldn't be what he thought it was. "Charlie. You got a second?" shouted Mia, his best friend and a fiery local journalist, bursting into the garage. Her passion for uncovering truth was only matched by her tenacity. "I've been working on that piece about the town's struggles. You won't believe what I found." With a quick glance at the device still in his hand, Charlie felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. Should he show Mia? What if his find was tied to something bigger? He didn't have time to think about that, he had to focus on putting food on the table. But didn't this discovery somehow connect to their loyalty to Millfield? He sensed an unspoken kinship with the device, something buried deep that could ignite change. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Mia leaned closer, her eyes alight with excitement. The discovery that Charlie had made could be the anchor they needed to expose the injustice they all felt. As they began to dig deeper, the truth about the moon reactor, a project linked to the government and the opportunities it promised, unraveled like a tangle of yarn. Potential energy solutions, untapped resources, and yet, it was all kept hidden from those who needed it most. They witnessed firsthand how those who had once thrived in Millfield were left to fight the tide of despair alone, but just as the momentum gathered and hope began to flicker in the hearts of their community, unseen dangers lurked. Faceless officials stood ready to crush any whisper of dissent. Charlie felt a tightening in his chest, recalling stories of his father, a war veteran whose sacrifices shaped the very foundation of his values. He thought of the weight of loyalty and the price of ambition. As the sun set in Millfield, casting long shadows that danced along the pavement, Charlie stood at a precipice. He was no longer just a mechanic, he was a beacon of change, a father grasping for a better future not only for his kids but for the community that shaped him. Now, more than ever, he had to decide, would he protect his loved ones or fight for the greater good? The answer hung in the air, heavy yet charged with possibility. Charlie stared at the device in his hand, its smooth surface reflecting the fading light. His heart raced. What if it was truly something revolutionary? He swallowed hard and tried to shake off the worries creeping in. 100 thoughts jostled for space in his mind. The garage felt smaller now, the four walls closing in as he weighed his choices. "Mia," he blurted, "look at this." He held out the device, hesitating for a moment before placing it in her palm. Her fingers traced the intricate design, eyes wide with wonder. "Charlie, this is incredible. Where did you find it?" "Just in the car I was working on. But it feels different. Like it has a purpose beyond what I can see." She nodded, her expression shifting from pure excitement to something more serious. "Have you thought about what this means? If this is connected to the moon reactor, it could hold answers people are desperate for. Answers that could turn things around for Millfield." The weight of her words sank in, filling the garage with an overwhelming sense of urgency. But along with the thrill, a shadow of doubt lingered. What if we're getting in over our heads? The folks in charge won't take kindly to someone digging into their secrets. Mia's gaze turned fierce, her spirit igniting like a flame. Then we dig deeper. Look, Charlie, we're already staring into the abyss of despair. How much worse could it get? If this leads people to something better, but Charlie remembered his father's stories too well. He had fought for truth only to see his dreams twisted into something dark. I can't risk my family, Mia. Not again. Your family needs hope, Charlie. Just maybe, this is where they find it. The tension hung heavy between them, a longing for boldness mixed with the instinct to preserve. Before Charlie could respond, Mia plucked a toolkit from the shelf, her determination unshakable. We can't sit on this. We have to find out what it can do. Let us get it online, see if anyone else recognizes it. As they rummaged through the cluttered garage, electricity buzzed in the air of possibility. Charlie felt a cautious excitement grow within him, battling against the fear of what they might uncover. As Mia set up her laptop, he busied himself, half listening to the rhythmic clicking of keys and the muffled sound of the radio still playing in the background. Then, the screen flickered to life, illuminating Mia's face with a cool glow. Alright, let us see what this baby's got. But just as they began their search, the garage door creaked open, sending a wave of cold air swirling in. Both turned to see a figure standing in the shadows. The smile on Charlie's face vanished, replaced by an instinctual dread as he recognized that tall, dark silhouette. Charlie? Mia? We need to talk. It was Sheriff Jenkins, a stalwart figure in Millfield, but his stern expression suggested he meant business. The unease danced between them, thickening the air like fog. Is this about the moon reactor? Mia asked, eyes narrowing with suspicion. Jenkins stepped inside, his voice lower. We'd like to know what you two think you're doing. Charlie's heart pounded in his chest, knowing they might be treading on dangerous ground. What would happen if they pursued this? He glanced at Mia, who returned a determined look that told him they couldn't retreat now. In this moment, decisions weighed heavily upon him. Loyalty battled ambition, hope wrestled with fear. What would he choose to stand for as the shadows loomed closer? The tension cracked like thunder, leaving Charlie to wonder how far they were willing to go for the truth. Was it too late to turn back? And just then, as Jenkins studied them with a penetrating gaze, Charlie knew they were at the brink of something far greater than he ever expected. But could they handle what lay ahead? Charlie felt the weight of Sheriff Jenkins's gaze pinning him in place. An aura of quiet authority surrounded the man, the kind that demanded honesty, respect, and maybe even fear. He wanted to stand tall, to feel brave, but the shadows danced in the corners of his mind, the risks, the repercussions. Mia took a step forward, breaking the oppressive silence. Sheriff, we were just what, Mia? Playing with toys? Jenkins interrupted, his voice sharp. This isn't a game. People are looking for answers. That reactor you mentioned, it's a touchy subject. Charlie's heart raced faster. We're not looking to cause trouble, Sheriff. We found something that could actually help. Help who, exactly? Jenkins narrowed his eyes. And what do you really know about it? Mia held her ground. We're aware that the moon reactor has been a source of misinformation. People are suffering in this town, and the truth could change everything. We just want to understand. Jenkins considered this, his brow furrowed with concern. Wanting to understand can lead you down dangerous paths. I'm not here to stop you, but I'm warning you, some truths are best left buried. You have no idea who you're dealing with. As the words hung in the air, Charlie felt a chill. He exchanged a glance with Mia, who gripped the toolkit like a lifeline. It was as if they both understood, in that instant, the deep waters they were wading into. This wasn't just a quest for knowledge anymore, it felt like a declaration, the kind that might attract unwanted attention. What do you mean? Mia asked, her voice steady but edged with a quiver of uncertainty. That reactor is an enigma. There are powers at play that don't want things unearthed. If you dig too deep, you might find yourself in over your heads. I've seen it happen before. The sheriff's tone softened slightly, revealing a hint of protective instinct. The thought of falling into a trap made Charlie's stomach twist. Part of him wanted to turn away, to walk out of the garage and forget any of this ever happened. But another part of him, the one that sparked to life at Mia's passionate words, urged him onward. All we want is to help the town. To find out what really happened. Then know this, Jenkins continued, his voice lower but intense. You have to be prepared for the consequences. When the time comes, you'll need to know who you can trust, and who you can't. Charlie felt the air shift, laden with unspoken threats. Just as he gathered his thoughts to respond, the laptop screen lit up again, a sudden burst of color that caught everyone's attention. Charlie! Mia exclaimed, her eyes glued to the screen, look at this. They leaned closer, and the flickering display revealed a series of encrypted files. Their names echoed in their minds, Project Helios, Lunar Energies, and Concealed Capabilities. The thrill surged through Charlie, igniting the spark of hope. Do you see that? This could be it. This could connect everything. Mia was breathless, excitement bubbling beneath the surface, but the sheriff's features darkened. You two need to be careful. The moment you push that button to decode these files, you've crossed a line. Be sure you know what you want, because there's no going back. Maybe it's time we find out, Charlie whispered, the weight of the decision settling in the pit of his stomach. As he and Mia shared a look, determined, yet aware of what lay ahead. Charlie reached for the mouse, his trembling hand weighing every second. With one deep breath, he clicked, the screen flooded with information, unfamiliar symbols and diagrams swirling across the screen. The truth was unraveling, but so were the possibilities of danger. As the files began decoding, a loud crash from outside jolted them, shaking the garage. Heart racing, Charlie and Mia exchanged anxious glances. What was happening now? Stay here, Jenkins ordered, his voice a low growl. I'll check it out. But Charlie knew the truth, they were all connected now. Whatever they had opened wasn't just a piece of technology, it was a gateway to something much bigger, and potentially lethal. Just then, a light flickered outside, the kind of light that could only mean one thing: they weren't alone. Could they truly uncover the truth without paying the ultimate price? Charlie's breath caught in his throat as the sheriff moved toward the garage door, his silhouette framed by the bright light outside. Mia's eyes shot toward the laptop, and the flickering images seemed to pulse like a heartbeat. What do we do? She whispered, dread pooling in her gut. Wait, Charlie urged, nervous but trying to keep his voice low. He felt trapped in this moment, the weight of all that had happened pressing against him like a storm cloud. Every instinct screamed to flee, yet the magnetic pull of the unknown held him firm. The light outside pulsed again, bobbing uncertainly as if it had a mind of its own. It reminded him of a lantern in a fog, offering both guidance and a sense of foreboding. Sheriff Jenkins shot them a look over his shoulder, a mix of warning and authority, before tensing and opening the door just a crack. Charlie could hear the soft rustle of fabric, a voice murmured beyond the door too faint to comprehend, yet the urgency was apparent. His heart raced. What if there were more people involved than they imagined? What if their pursuit of the truth had ignited something far more dangerous? What if we just locked the door? Mia suggested, her fingers nervously tracing the edge of the laptop. But then they'd know we're here, Charlie countered, feeling the tension mount in his chest. We have to be smart about this. Let us not tip them off. Jenkins stood there, muscles taut, listening. The door barely opened, a sliver of space allowing just enough light to spill into the garage. Get ready to run, he hissed before slipping outside, closing the door quietly behind him. Charlie felt the clock ticking. Every second stretched, echoing the pulse in his ears as he calculated their next move. He glanced at the decoded files, the weight of knowledge ready to fall into chaos. Whatever was outside was real, and it felt more threatening than any simple curiosity about Project Helios. "I can't just sit here," Mia breathed, pacing. She looked eager, a wildfire of determination. "We need to get answers. Answers can wait. Right now, we need a plan." Charlie felt desperate, realizing that the simmering thrill of adventure was being overshadowed by fear. Then came another crash, the unmistakable sound of metal meeting metal. It echoed in the garage, vibrating through the concrete floor and sending adrenaline coursing through Charlie's veins. Mia whipped around. "Charlie, we have to decide, are we going to stay put or find out what is happening?" Out of instinct, Charlie leaned closer to the laptop again, half expecting it to deliver comforting news or clarity. But the screen just flickered with unfamiliar data, like a puzzle that was mocking them, biting at the edges of their understanding. He couldn't ignore the urgency anymore. Okay, he said breathlessly. "We go out, but we have to stay low and stick together. We can't lose sight of what we came here to do. We need to find that reactor and uncover the truth." Mia nodded, determination dawning in her eyes, but it was coupled with fear. "Together," she affirmed, and Charlie could see the spark of courage. They moved toward the door, cautious and breathing slowly. With every step, Charlie felt the weight of the world rest on their shoulders. Something about this was bigger than them, and the mystery deepened with every choice they made. As they pulled the door open, a sudden gust of wind burst through, swirling and cold, as if swirling out secrets just waiting to be discovered. They stepped outside, heartbeats in sync, ready to face whatever lay ahead. They could see shadows moving under the security lights, and the voices grew louder. "Do you see that?" Mia pointed, trembling slightly. "Who are they?" Not just shadows anymore. There were figures, dark shapes gathered, murmuring, and their focus was on the unassuming reactor in the distance. "What if they're looking for us?" Charlie whispered, the chill of realization washing over him. Could they truly uncover the truth, or had they just entered a world where nothing was what it seemed? The tension crackled in the air, the truth felt dangerously close, but so did the darkness. Charlie could feel his pulse quickening, a vicious thrum against his ribcage. The figures surrounding the reactor were an enigmatic gathering, their movements a strange choreography under the harsh glare of the lights. Panic clawed at the edges of his mind as he took a small step back, but Mia stayed firm, her eyes wide and alight with curiosity. "What do we do?" She whispered again, the urgency of the moment flooding her voice with intensity. Charlie swallowed hard, weighing his options. They could either hide and hope the figures moved on, or take a risk and attempt to learn more about what was happening. "We have to find out what they're doing," he said, determination lacing his tone. "But we need to approach carefully." He surveyed the area, looking for any cover. There were stacks of crates nearby, partially obscured by shadows. "We can stay low behind those crates. If we're quiet, maybe we can hear what they're saying." Mia nodded, her resolve solidifying. They crouched low and darted from their spot, hearts racing in sync. Every step felt electric, charged with the danger of being caught. The night air was thick with tension, almost suffocating. As they reached the crates, Charlie pressed himself against the wood, peering out just enough to catch a glimpse of the figures. They were clad in dark clothing, and the flickering lights created ghostly shapes that danced around them. They held devices that glinted under the glare, tools of trade, or weapons. It was hard to tell. Charlie felt bile rising in his throat at the unknowingness swirling around them. "What are they talking about?" Mia's voice was barely more than a whisper, as if too loud a sound could shatter the delicate balance of their secrecy. He strained to listen, trying to focus on the murmurs. "It's almost ready," one of the figures said, voice steady but urgent. "We need to finalize the calculations and make sure everything aligns. If we don't, someone could get hurt, another voice interjected, full of hesitation. We can't afford any mistakes with this. We are on the edge of something huge. Charlie's heart sank. What are they talking about? He thought. They weren't just ordinary people, this wasn't just about the reactor. It felt bigger. More sinister. Suddenly, one of the figures turned slightly, revealing a patch on their clothing that bore a logo Charlie recognized from the documents they had studied Project Helios. Surprise washed over him, mingling with dread. They were official. This was bigger than he imagined. Mia, we need to back away, he urged quietly. This is dangerous. If they see us. But before he could finish, a loud crash shattered the air. The noise echoed through the night like a gunshot, sending shivers down Charlie's spine. The figures whipped around, their shadows darting in response, and for a split second, time froze, then chaos erupted. Lights swung wildly as figures began to scatter, some running back towards the reactor while others moved toward them. A sense of disbelief gripped Charlie. They can't see us, he thought. Panic bubbled in his throat, and he felt Mia's grip tighten. We have to go, she hissed, eyes wide with terror. He nodded, barely able to move as adrenaline surged through him. In that electrifying moment, he was struck with a reality that twisted his insides, a decision between the allure of the truth and the instinct to survive. With a sudden burst of determination, Charlie motioned for Mia to follow him. Together, they began to edge quietly back from the crates. But then, he noticed a figure moving directly toward them, eyes scanning the shadows. Mia, run! Charlie shouted, urgency fueling his voice. As they broke free from the cover of the crates, footsteps thundered behind them. They raced across the open ground toward the safety of the dense trees at the edge of the property, hearts racing, fear igniting their movements. What now? Mia gasped, breathing heavily as they dove into the dark embrace of the woods. Charlie paused, glancing back. We can't just run. We have to plan again. They know we're here. What had they stumbled into? The choices ahead were foggy and uncertain, the path to unveiling the truth yet winding with dangers. Are we ready to face what's coming? He questioned, locking eyes with Mia, knowing full well the darkness was still looming behind them, closer than ever. The night felt alive as Charlie and Mia crouched low among the underbrush, the pulse of their fear echoing in their ears. The shadows of the forest engulfed them, but the distant flickering lights from the reactor reminded him of the danger they had just narrowly escaped. Did they see us? Mia whispered, her chest rising and falling rapidly as she clung to a branch for support. If they did, I don't know how, Charlie replied, keeping his eyes on the path they had just bolted down. The sounds of heavy footsteps and frantic voices began to fade into the distance, replaced by the stillness of the woods. For a moment, the silence was a sanctuary, a tight little world of their own, far away from the chaos they had just left behind. Mia took a deep breath, her voice trembling as she spoke. What were they doing with that reactor? It can't just be power generation. The weight of her words hung between them, heavy with unanswered questions. I don't know, but we can't let this go, he said, his resolve building in the aftermath of their panic. Something was off, something much larger than either of them had anticipated. We need to go back. We can't let them continue whatever they're planning. Mia looked uneasy. And what if they catch us again? They seemed serious. What if they're armed or something? Then we move smart. Charlie's heart raced with the thought of what he'd seen, of the patch that bore the Project Helios logo. We need information. This is bigger than us now. If they're harnessing something dangerous, we have to warn someone. Mia's eyes flared with a mix of fright and determination. She pressed her lips together, digesting what he said. Okay, but let us think it through. We need a plan. The moonlight spilled through the leaves overhead, casting shadows on the ground that danced as branches swayed in the cool night air. Charlie felt a surge of energy as the enormity of their situation began to sink in. He didn't want to think about the risks, he had to stay focused on the outcome. "Here's what we can do," Charlie began, mapping out a basic outline in his mind. "We circle back to the edge of the clearing, find some cover, and listen. We need to know what they're up to. There'll be more movement when the panic fades. And we can't let them think they got away unnoticed." "All right. Let us go," Mia replied, her voice firmer now, caught up in his urgency. With his heart pounding like a drum, Charlie led the way through the underbrush, moving slowly, cautiously. Each step felt heavy, laden with the burden of fear and responsibility. They crept closer to the reactor, the muffled sounds of conspiratorial whispers and mechanical whirs growing clearer as they approached. Charlie glanced back at Mia, who offered him a brave nod, her courage igniting a flicker of hope inside him. They were in this together, bound by the shared weight of their discovery. "Do you think they'll talk about the reactor?" she asked as they nestled behind a bush, concealing themselves from view. "Let us stay quiet and find out," he murmured, straining to catch snippets of the conversation. The suspense was nearly unbearable, each second stretching into eternity. Suddenly, a sharp voice emerged from the shadows, cutting through the tension. "The launch is set for dawn. We can't fail this time. Not after what happened last time." Charlie's stomach dropped. His mind raced with implications, but he clung to one burning question: what had happened last time? Before he could ponder further, Mia gasped, pulling his attention back. "Charlie, look!" she whispered, her eyes wide with alarm as a figure approached from the opposite direction. He held his breath, the air thick with fear as the figure stepped into the light, revealing a face all too familiar. The realization hit like a punch in the gut. The truth was coming at them, and with it, the stakes just became dangerously high. "Charlie, we have to move." Questions swirled in his mind as another voice rang out, revealing just how far their discovery had drawn them into a maelstrom of conspiracy. What awaited them in that clearing just beyond the trees could change everything. Would they walk out unscathed? Would the truth be as powerful as he feared? The night loomed heavy with uncertainty, and choices were about to be made that could alter their lives forever. What if everything they thought they knew was a well-crafted lie? Mia tugged at his sleeve, her eyes darting, scanning the trees for escape routes. "What if they see us, Charlie? We can't let them capture us again." "Not with stay quiet," he hissed, adrenaline surging as dread pooled in his stomach. The familiar face drew nearer, illuminated by the flickering lights, a man Charlie recognized from old neighborhood gatherings. His name danced on the edge of memory, but at that moment, it felt like a ghost from a life too innocent. "This isn't good. They're involved," Charlie muttered. It was a thought that twisted the knife deeper into his heart. That man, whoever he was now, had faded from their lives only to emerge in this dangerous dance of secrets and shadows. "What do we do?" Mia asked, her voice a whisper, barely sharing the sentiment that every heartbeat screamed inside him. "Run. Listen," he urged, crouching lower, straining to catch what they were saying. The words melded into the air with urgency. "If we don't secure the element before dawn, it's all over. We can't risk another incident like last time. The cleanup nearly shattered everything." Charlie felt a chill creep down his spine. Cleanup? What had happened last time? Was it danger? Lives lost? The truth felt slippery in the darkness, mocking him. Mia's grip tightened around his arm. "We need to find out. If this is as serious as it sounds, we can't let them proceed. We have to record everything." There was no time to think. He nodded sharply, eyes glued to the men who were now tossing around tools and gadgets that glinted ominously in the moonlight. "That's it. Record it while it's still fresh," he whispered, pulling his phone out of his pocket with trembling hands. Each click of the buttons felt loud in the stillness. The small screen offered a dampened light, illuminating Mia's determined face as she nodded resolutely. Just keep it steady, she cautioned, side-eyeing the figures, now too close for comfort. Charlie focused as best he could, framing the scene: the reactor, the men, the tension. It was a moment suspended in fear and excitement, adrenaline thrummed in his veins. As minutes passed, fear turned into clarity. Whatever was going on, it felt bigger than all of them, like ripples that could shake foundations. The man he'd recognized started pacing, gesturing anxiously. "We've waited too long. We need to act before they find out," he said, voice edged with panic. Charlie's heart raced faster. "Before who finds out?" he whispered. Both of them strained to hear, but suddenly it all went silent, like a scream that had been swallowed whole. "We should go," Mia urged, pulling at him again, but Charlie held firm. "Wait. They're going to say something important," he insisted, too invested to back down now. The shadows danced with secrets, wrapping around them like a thick fog. Finally, the silence broke with a rough command. "Search the perimeter. If they're here, we can't let them get away again." Mia's eyes widened in horror. "Again? Who are they talking about?" "Let us move," Charlie replied, adrenaline kicking into high gear. The fear of being discovered lashed at his thoughts. They had to crawl back the way they had come before it was too late. As they began to stealthily retreat, another figure stepped out of the shadows, one that made Charlie's heart stop. Could it be? His eyes widened as the person squared their shoulders, a familiar silhouette cutting against the darkness. "Mia," he whispered, terror twisting in his gut, "it's them, it's the sheriff." Every bit of hope and strategy evaporated like dew in the harsh morning sun. Would the one person who was supposed to protect them now put them in jeopardy? How deep was this conspiracy running? Would they be caught just when they were about to uncover the truth? Questions swirled like autumn leaves, tangled with uncertainty, as they slipped deeper into the woods, their breaths mingling with the darkness. What awaited them back home was a mystery, but trapped within these woods was danger, and time was running out. Charlie felt his pulse quicken, each heartbeat echoing in the silence around them. The sheriff stood just a few yards away, the moonlight casting long shadows across his stern face. This was no longer just a simple midnight encounter, it was a confrontation looming on the horizon. "Mia," Charlie said, his voice barely above a whisper, "what if he's mixed up in all of this?" Mia's eyes widened, reflecting a mixture of fear and steely resolve. "We have to keep moving. If he sees us, it could be over before it even starts." He nodded. They had to find cover and get out of sight. The thick underbrush nearby offered a potential escape route. They maneuvered low, hearts thumping with each shuffling step, tracking their breath to keep quiet, careful not to snap a twig or rustle the leaves. Suddenly, the sheriff's voice cut through the darkness. "I don't care what Charlie and Mia think they know. They're just kids playing detective. Secure the site." Panic coursed through Charlie. They were well aware they were being hunted. "He's looking for us," Charlie breathed, his mind racing. "We need to find out what they want and if we can stop it." Mia grabbed his arm, pulling him toward a thick cluster of trees where they could huddle against the bark, hidden from the prying eyes just beyond the corner. "He might have answers," she pointed out as they crouched down, trying to steady their breaths. "Or he might be part of the problem," Charlie replied, straining to locate the figures still standing under the flickering lights. They blended into the shadows like lost souls. In that moment, Charlie's phone buzzed in his pocket, breaking the tension with an unexpected jolt. He stifled his instinct to pull it out, knowing it could be the end of their hiding. The light from the screen could easily betray them. "Is it a text?" Mia whispered, glancing at him with wide eyes. "No," he mouthed, holding his breath as he felt the vibration fade. The world outside seemed to grow more menacing with each passing second, each rustle of leaves igniting a fresh wave of anxiety. "What if we try to record them again?" Mia suggested, a spark igniting in her. Charlie shook his head. "They can't see us. We have to wait for the right moment." Just then, the tension escalated when voices emerged, murmuring about a contingency plan and the presence of another element they hadn't anticipated. If the element leaks again, the cleanup isn't only going to cost money. It could cost lives, one man said, his voice tight with urgency. Do you think that's what they meant by cleanup? Mia whispered, her eyes scanning their faces, trying to decipher who to trust. It seems so, Charlie replied, wrestling with the implications. What if they put us in the middle of something much bigger, something dangerous? As fear gripped his throat, the sheriff stepped further away from the crew, closer to where they were hiding. Charlie felt dizzy with uncertainty, the mix of dread and the unresolved excitement of discovery tugging at him. This is insane, Mia breathed, unable to tear her eyes away from the sheriff speaking in low tones, his expression unreadable. There was no turning back now. They had to know, to confront whatever truth lay ahead, whether it brought freedom or disaster. Should we follow him? Mia asked, determination flickering in her gaze like the fireflies that danced around them. Charlie hesitated, but, in that moment, he realized that he was not just driven by curiosity anymore. This was about survival and protecting what little they had left. Yeah. Let's do it. But we have to be quiet. As they crept through the forest, the heart of danger thrummed violently in the air around them. With every step closer to the urgent whispers of that night, they could feel the ominous threat building ahead, ready to strike. What awaited them within the shadows would unlock truths they could never have imagined, but could they handle the reality they were about to uncover? Charlie and Mia slipped deeper into the thicket, the underbrush scratching against their skin as they tried to blend into the shadows. The more they moved, the more the weight of uncertainty hung over them like the oppressive night sky. Do you think they know we're here? Mia whispered, her voice quivering just slightly, a mix of fear and adrenaline coursing through her veins. Charlie shook his head. If they did, they wouldn't be talking about their plan out loud. His voice trailed off as he listened intently, hoping to catch a snippet of their conversation. Just then, a cold gust of wind swept through the trees, sending a shiver down Charlie's spine. It felt as though the forest itself was holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. What do you think they're planning? Mia asked, her eyes darting between the sheriff and the other figures in the clearing. I didn't like how they mentioned a cleanup. That doesn't sound good. Before Charlie could answer, the sheriff's tone hardened. We can't let them find out what we're doing. The element must remain under control, at all costs. Every word dripped with fierce urgency, making Charlie's stomach knot. Mia glanced at Charlie, her expression a mirror of his anxiety. Element? What could they possibly be talking about? I have no idea, but it sounds like something they're willing to protect at a high price, Charlie replied, clenching his fists. It was unnerving to think their town, their home, could be at the center of something so sinister. Suddenly, the sheriff turned and began pacing back toward them, leaving the others behind. Panic surged through Charlie. If they were caught now, everything would unravel. We have to move, he whispered urgently. Let us circle around this way. He guided Mia deeper into the foliage, moving quickly but quietly. The adrenaline raced through him like fire, pushing him to act without hesitation. As they slipped past an old tree, they caught a glimpse of something shiny reflecting the moonlight, a piece of equipment hastily discarded on the ground. With everything else happening, it felt significant, and instinctively, Charlie reached for it. Mia, look at this. She crouched beside him, glancing at the unusual device. What the heck is that? I think it's a monitoring device, he said, inspecting the intricate components. They must be using it to keep tabs on whatever that element is. Just then, the distant sounds of shouting began rising behind them, scattering their focus. The crew had figured out they were missing. Charlie. Mia hissed. We can't stay here. He felt a surge of panic, making his heart hammer even harder. They had to make a choice now: risk being seen and stay to learn more, or run and hope they could escape whatever threat lay ahead. We need to find out what they're hiding. Let us get closer just a bit more, he urged, barely able to contain his desire for answers. Mia hesitated, fear flickering in her eyes. But what if we get caught? It's too late for that. They're hunting us already. Charlie insisted, determination hardening his voice. As they edged closer, they heard snippets of conversation that made their blood run cold. The element can't afford to be exposed. Not again. What does that even mean? Mia whispered, fear creeping back into her tone. I don't know, Charlie replied, frustration spilling over. With every moment that passed, the reality of the danger amplified. He sensed that they were on the brink of something monumental, yet terrifying. They could choose safety or risk everything for the truth. And as uncertainty loomed overhead, Charlie wondered just how deep the layers of deception went. What have we stumbled into? He whispered, knowing that the answer was getting closer. He would regret not pushing forward, he felt it in his bones. They had to uncover the gravity of the situation before it spiraled any further out of control. Suddenly, a heavy footfall sounded nearby. The sheriff was coming. Would they be caught in the act, or would they finally crack the truth behind the shadows? Charlie held his breath, the world narrowing down to the rhythmic crunch of twigs under Sheriff Jenkins's boots. The shadows wrapped around him and Mia like a tight cloak, but the fear was palpable. What if, Mia whispered, her voice shaking, what if he sees us? Just stay still, Charlie cautioned, his heart pounding like a drum in his chest. They were on the precipice of something dangerous. The air felt charged, as if it was holding its breath with them. The sheriff moved closer, frustration radiating off him in waves. Spread out. He barked to the others, his tone harsh. Find them. They're here somewhere. Charlie's stomach twisted. They were the ones being hunted, not the hunters. The gravity of his situation crashed over him, weighing heavy in his gut. We need to move, he urged, glancing at Mia, whose face was pale in the dim moonlight. No, she gripped his arm, eyes wide with fear, if we're quiet, maybe they'll just let us go. We can't let them find us. He pulled her into the underbrush, heart racing. Each sound distant voices, the crunch of leaves, the heavy footsteps made him jump. They had to escape this chaos together. They slipped deeper into the trees, rounding a large oak that offered them temporary refuge. As they crouched low, the muffled sounds of the sheriff and his crew began to fade, leaving only the rustling of leaves and distant whispers. What do we do now? Mia whispered, her breath warm against Charlie's ear. We can't just keep running. No, but we can't give up, Charlie responded, determination igniting within him. We need to find out the truth, no matter how deep it runs. They shared a glance, the weight of their reality pressing upon them. They could walk away and return to the safety of the normal life they once knew, but that world was forever changed. Hundreds of questions churned between them, entwined with the knowledge that whatever was happening in that clearing could destroy everything they held dear. Let us circle back, they decided almost in unison. With their hearts in their throats, they maneuvered silently through the thicket, inching back toward the reactor area. The fear that had once consumed them transformed into something sharper, a pulse of defiance. If Sheriff Jenkins and his crew were hiding something, they had to know what it was. As they drew nearer, Charlie spotted more figures huddled around the equipment, illuminated faintly by the rusted lights. The glimpses he caught were enough to make his palms sweat. Their hushed tones wrapped around him like chains, but he didn't back away. If anything, the threat fired his resolve. They're planning something big. Mia breathed, her eyes darting from figure to figure, concern etching her brow. But what can we do? Charlie focused on the man he had recognized before, the one who spoke with authority among the group. His voice cut through the air again, the element the reactor needs to be contained. If we don't act now, everything will fall apart. We've lost too much already. Contain it? What is he talking about? Charlie whispered, confused and frightened all at once. We have to find out how to stop them. Wait. Mia hissed, pulling at him gently. If we push into the light, they'll see us. But just as they turned to retreat, a shout rang out. Did you find them? The voices rose with frantic energy, shaking Charlie to the core. No, but we've got to keep searching. They can't get away. Mia and Charlie exchanged frantic looks, their breath loud in the tense silence. Panic surged through Charlie stronger than before. They were trapped. They had to move quickly before they turned back for a second sweep. Now, let us go. Charlie urged, moving forward, adrenaline pulling him into action. He had to warn the town, warn everyone. Stealing out of the trees, they sprinted toward the dive of the old warehouse nearby, its door hanging ajar like a gateway to salvation. Bursting inside, Charlie felt the cool air wrap around him. The shadows cloaked their movement, and they pressed their backs against the wall, catching breaths while keeping behind the debris. What do we do now? Mia breathed out, eyes darting to the door they had just entered through. Now we see if we can find anything that could help us figure this out. Charlie held his voice to a whisper, scanning for light, for any clue that could help. They stumbled deeper into the basement, and there, behind a pile of crates, they found an array of documents. Charlie reached down, fingers trembling as he skimmed the fragile papers. Information flashed before him, data on Project Helios, something they couldn't fully comprehend but that felt electrifyingly dangerous. Mia, look at this. He gasped, the revelation hitting him like a wave. This could be what they're hiding. Mia leaned closer, eyes widening at the diagrams and notes. This is it. It outlines their plans, what they intend to do with the reactor. But just as reality began to settle, they heard the faint echo of footsteps approaching. Adrenaline surged again, they had to move. Let us get out of here. He whispered urgently, and together, they plotted their escape. They raced through the old basement, heart pounding, fear swirling, realization underlying every step. Time was running out, they needed to expose the truth now or risk losing everything. As they dashed out into the night, propelled by the hope that the dawn might bring light to these dark shadows, they knew they had crossed a line. Together, they ventured deeper into the unknown, prepared to fight against whatever evil lurked ahead. With a roar of blazing courage, they made their way into the darkness, ready to uncover the truth behind the Mike Reed reactor. They knew they would need the community behind them to face what awaited in the shadows. The people of Millfield were depending on them, and they would not let that responsibility turn to dust. As they reached the edge of town, the reactor loomed, strong and lucid in the night. Charlie and Mia exchanged determined glances. They were no longer just unassuming citizens, they had become warriors for their home, prepared to forge a path toward the future, no matter the cost, but only time would tell if they would prevail. As the dawn began to break on the horizon, they understood the true battle was only just beginning. And, together, they would illuminate the darkness, one truth at a time. This is it. The moment you've been waiting for. You need to subscribe now. Join the journey into uncovering the unknown, and don't miss out on the next shocking story that will unfold. Leave a like now. Seriously, it powers the algorithm and pushes our community closer to the truth. Comment below your thoughts about this thrilling conclusion. What do you think will happen next? It's time to share your feelings, and don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation and uncover the truth that lies beneath the surface. They will thank you later. Let us stand together, for Millfield.